The following broadcast is brought to you by the iGolf Sports Network.
Golf Talk Live is sponsored by the iGolf Sports Network and Golf Tips Magazine. Here's Andrew to tell you more about our sponsors.
iGolf Sports is a live stream broadcast and media production company providing quality programming designed to attract the golfing enthusiast. And Golf Tips, the game's most in-depth instruction magazine, including reviews on the latest equipment, tips from top teaching professionals, all designed to help you improve from tee to green. Welcome to Golf Talk Live with your host, Ted Odorico. Join Ted each week as he speaks with some of the best in golf. This week's special guest will join us a bit later. But first up is another great discussion on Coach's Corner. So let's introduce tonight's Coach's Corner panel.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Season 13 of Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico. We've got a great show for you tonight, a little bit shorter than normal. Our special guest, unfortunately, tonight, that was going to be joining me, fell a little bit under the weather, so he's not going to be able to join me, but we still got a great show. We're going to start things off here in just a moment with Coach's Corner. I got two of my favorite pros joining me tonight. And then right afterwards, I'm going to be followed up by our travel segment with my good friend, co-host, and travel expert, Robert Kaufman, alongside this evening's special travel guest, Ross Birch, the general manager of Golf and Sports Club from the Mauna Lani Resorts in Hawaii. He's going to be joining us a little bit later on in the broadcast. But let me remind everybody, of course, if you want to see this week's or any of the other previously aired episodes, you can visit the iGolf Sports YouTube channel, or you can simply go to Spotify.com and you can catch the video version of this podcast. Or if you want to just listen to the audio version, you can do that too. You can go to Spreaker.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe to the channels when you're there so you get notified as new episodes drop each and every week. And I always ask this question, if you're looking to step up your game a little bit, then become a premium member at golftipsmag.com. We have 3 membership levels available, silver, gold, or platinum. And by becoming a premium member, you'll gain access to special content provided by our Golf Tips Top 25 instructors. You can also check out the latest golf news, equipment, and product reviews, plus top travel destinations just in time to book your next buddy trip. And as a premium member, you'll also receive exclusive discounts from our premium golf partners, and there are many of them. So register today at golftipsmag.com and become part of our premium community. All right, as I mentioned, I got 2 great guys joining me up. First up, of course, is Pete Buchanan. Pete's been teaching golf now for over 30 years. He is the founder and director of instruction for Plain Simple Golf. And Plain Simple Golf houses the Plain Simple Golf Circuit and the Simple Swing Repeater Training Brace. And Pete's been helping golfers of all levels around the globe focus on building a repeatable swing. And as I mentioned, one of the favorites here on the panel. Also, another favorite is Jon Decker. He is the director of instruction at the Medallion Club in Columbus, Ohio. He's also a senior contributing editor and a top 25 instructor with Golf Tips Magazine. And he was the 2015 Southern Ohio Teacher of the Year. And he's authored 2 books, Golf is My Life, Glorifying God Through the Game, and Fairways to Heaven, One Shot at a Time. And he's available for public speaking upon request. So, guys, welcome to Coach's Corner.
Thank you. Thank you, Ted.
Thanks, Ted. Good to be here.
All right. So we're going to do something a little different tonight. I thought this would be kind of interesting, and we'll see if we can get through all of it because there's quite a bit, believe it or not. We're going to talk about giving and taking a video golf lesson. We're going to first start off from the coach's perspective, and then we're going to talk about if we have time, and if not, I'll have to do the second half, which is the student's perspective, maybe next week. So we'll see how much we can get through tonight. And I'm going to start, Pete, because I know that you do a lot of video online lessons, and as I mentioned, you've got a lot of students from around the world, and I want to get your thoughts here, and then I'll get Jon to jump in as well. So first off, from the coaches, what do coaches need to do to prepare? And one of the things I want you to talk about is obviously you want to record your student and talk a little bit how you set up. So go through, if you wouldn't mind, maybe start how you record. What are you specifically recording of your student? And are there certain positions that you're trying to focus on? And maybe give us an explanation as to why.
Yeah, again, Ted, it's great to be here. Good to be with you, Jon. For me, I use the Golf Live app. So, basically we can set it up where the 2 of us are on, a lot like FaceTime, but this gives me the ability to actually record the swing in the app itself. And so I'll have that set up and ready to go. And so basically I'm depending on what I see, it'll depend on which view of the swing I want to get, whether it's down the line or face on. And then from there, I'm actually able to pull that video. And if I need to, I can place it in some 3D software if I want to show them something a little bit different as we're going along. But that's usually how I do it. So it's more behind the scenes for me. It's you put it into a broadcast mode and you're able to basically show them, and they can see the screen and they can understand, as I'm going through the swing analysis, they can see what's going on, draw the lines, whatever you have to do. So it's basically just running through that, and it works out really well. I mean, it's the next best thing to being there. Obviously, being face to face is one of the best ways to do it. But when you're not, I'm just making sure that I understand what their ball flight is. Because I obviously in the camera sense you can't see it, so I'll ask them, basically what's going on. Background wise, having come from watching so many swings over the years in a golf school environment, I have a pretty good idea where the ball's going to go just by watching what happens. I'm sure John does too, or both of you do. You see a backswing and you're like, yeah, I know where that's going. And so it's a matter of just what are the variances, how far offline, right or left is it going. But that's basically how I go about it. And, once I record the swing through the app, I'm going to run through exactly what I'm looking for and to show them, what I see, and then basically move through the movements. And then once we're done analyzing it, they can go back to hitting and we're still chatting with each other and I can watch what they're doing. And then we can walk through exactly what we're trying to work on while I'm still there, having a live version of being able to look at what's going on. I think to me, that's the best way to do it. I mean, you can also do it where they send you a video, you do an analysis, send it back. But I think having it in a live version is a little bit easier because then you've got them right there and you can talk through the changes that you're trying to make while they're still on with you.
Yeah, and that's a great point because, if you're in a situation where maybe your students in another state, maybe even in another country, that gives you, with a lot of the technology available now, that gives you an opportunity, again, to do it in a live format and to be able to instruct them what you want to see, so they can set up, as you said, face on or down the line, and you can record that video and then you can actually discuss it in real time. But John, sometime, and also you mentioned Pete too, they can also send you the video, which was kind of old school. I mean, we got to do that a little bit more, and it still happens, but more people are either doing it in the format that you're talking about, or John, I'm going to get you to talk about, which is also, I won't say old school, but a little bit more of the traditional, where the student is actually right there at the facility, and maybe you've got a phone or a camera of some kind you're setting up. So what do you do in your case if you've got a student that's actually coming to Medallion for a lesson and you want to record and video their swing? What are you looking for? How are you setting up? What angles are you looking for? And typically, what are some of the steps that you go through during that video lesson?
Well, Ted, thanks again for having us on the show. And Pete, as always, I look forward to being on with you tonight. I use the V1 app, and when I was at Grand Cypress and when I was at New Albany, we had cameras that were already set up, and it was like in an indoor facility where you're hitting out. And so the cameras were already set up, and you didn't have to worry about that. But using the app, we don't have a building at Medallion, unfortunately, and so we are going to be getting a simulator, and that will make things a lot different. So I'm using my phone and the V1 app. And the thing that I would tell anyone out there that's taking lessons and doing video lessons is the camera angle is critical. If you don't have the proper camera angle, then the information is going to come across differently to the instructor, and it's going to make things appear maybe you're doing something that you're actually not doing. And so from the face on, which is me looking at someone face on when they're hitting a shot, I want the camera to be directly on the golf ball. This way I can look at their ball position. I can look at their tilt of their spine. Are they maybe in front of the ball too much? Are they behind the ball too much? I had a student today, their ball position was way too far forward. From the face-on view, it's an easy way to show them, and I can draw the lines and do all that as well. And then from the back view, I always try to position the camera so that it's halfway between the golf ball and their toes. So if I'm standing on the ball, or if I'm standing where the student is, that would make their swing path look different. So you got to make sure that you're right in between where the golf ball is and where the tip of their toes are. So camera angle is very critical. And then after the lesson, what I do is I do a video recap, because I am working hands, on, face to face with someone. I'll do a video recap and I'll send them, it's about a 45-minute little recap of the entire lesson. I can draw lines, I can do all of that. I'm a big believer that less video during the lesson is better, because if you give someone too much video during the lesson, they get too analytical and they lose all sense and feel of swinging the club. So I like to look at video just like as an x-ray. It's like, here's where the problem is, this is what we're going to attack, and then I like to work on drills. I'm real big into drills or whatever it is that I want to do. So I do some online instruction because I'm in Florida 4 months out of the year. I'm in Ohio 8 months out of the year, and many of my students will text me or they will email me videos, and I can download those and I can do exactly kind of what Pete's doing, but I'm not doing it. I don't do it live with them. I'll just go through and I'll take their videos and say, here's what you need to work on. And then I'll email it back to them. And I usually get it back to them within 24 hours. So that is a great way, because the majority of those people, I already know what they're doing. It's just a way for me to kind of monitor what they're doing. So technology makes it great now. It's so much easier than it was, 25, 30 years ago.
It's interesting you mentioned about the angles and that, and I just wanted to and this is more so, I mean, the coaches, or at least most of the coaches, shouldn't be doing this, but a lot of students, of course, that take their own videos and then submit it to the coach. I always used to see them early on, not so much that they're getting a little bit more savvy now, but earlier on they would always have it would be like on a 45-degree angle. So you couldn't really see where the ball position was.
Yeah.
And when they say face on, they're not really doing it face on. They're doing it again on angles. Mm-hmm. So you're really not able to see the swing path. You're not allowed to get the information that we need. So you get a lot of guesswork. I mean, the folks now are again becoming a little bit more savvy. So let's talk about great points, guys, all together. The reason why I wanted to talk about this tonight is because so many people are relying now on exchanging technology or exchanging information through technology, whether it's the format, Pete, that you were talking about, where it's a live engagement. You might be, as I said, in another state, and you're engaging with a student that you've developed online, and you're able to in that real time do that. John, you're doing it real time as well for the most part, but then you're doing a follow up as well. And I know, Pete, you do as well, but you're doing a follow up, within 24 hours to give them that information. And sometimes that's good too, because it allows them a chance to decompress a little bit and get away from the lesson and say, okay, now I can think about it. I can look at it different perspective. Maybe they weren't really happy with the way they were hitting the ball, so they calm down and cool down a little bit. Now they can hear, a little bit more perspective. So I want to talk about the analysis and feedback. Pete, I'm going to come back to you because this is crucial. I know you're using a specific software that's a little bit different from John, but again, there's so many different features that are available, things like slow motion playback, drawing tools, as you guys have both talked about, and that. Again, how do we keep it so that it's as simple as possible for the student? Again, more advanced students maybe want a little bit more detail, but how do we, in an environment like this, how do we keep it as simplistic as possible, getting the information that we need to get to them and convey to them, but not overwhelm them with so many different, I've seen some where they'll have 50 lines drawn on it, and I'm sitting there myself, I'm trying to figure out what are they trying to convey to the student. So how do you find that happy balance when you're analyzing what you've just seen on video?
Well, I think it's just putting on the screen exactly what you need them to work on or what they need to see. So if you're trying to get the club in a different swing plane or direction, you might want to use lines for where that's going. If they're standing up, moving, any kind of different spine angle changes, you can put the skeleton on, and then you can, some of the software I have with XView, I can put the numbers on so I can measure the spine angle. And then if they're, early extending, we can see that. And so I would just highlight just that feature. I think more than anything else, you want to put on there exactly what you're trying to convey as that's the piece we're going to work on now, and only put that piece on as far as, any trying to drawing tools or any type of thing you're trying to move. And I think that in a sense will get them started for what's going on. Maybe in a recap sense, if you're sending them something later, you could put a couple other things in there. But me, I try to keep it as simple as possible. So I'm only going to highlight the exact area that I'm trying to work on when I do video analysis, and then I will leave the tools relative to that for me to use to get the point I'm trying to get across.
Yeah, I mean, information is important. I mean, obviously, you want to convey, as much information within reason to the student because you're trying to help them correct potential problems or ongoing issues that they may have. But John, I want to come to you now, and great points, Pete. Thank you. Again, it's important to show the students where they're making some mistakes, where improvement is needed in that. And again, everybody is different. Every coach is going to do things a little bit differently. But do you find yourself when you're showing them the videos, doing comparisons with other videos? Do you like to incorporate that and saying, in other words, not necessarily pro videos, but even some coaches I've seen like to relate to other sports? A lot of people say the golf swing is similar to the baseball swing, just a little different angle. Do you like to incorporate some of that analogy in your analysis with your student? And if so, why? And if not, why?
Yes, I do. And I'm always asking my students, like what sports they played growing up, obviously their handicap, ability, things like that, especially when I'm first getting to know them. I probably use the throwing a ball analogy more than any, because the sequence of a baseball pitcher throwing a baseball and hitting a golf ball are really the same sequence. The difference is you have a club in your hand versus a ball. And so a lot of times I will use that sequence. I'll say, a pitcher doesn't take the ball and just move his hands to start his swing or to start the throw. He uses his body. He lifts his leg up, he turns his body, and then he, drives off the mound, and then he plants all of his weight into his left foot. And then the last thing to come is the ball. Well, the golf swing is the same way. You don't use the hands to start your swing. You use the upper body. The club's going one way, and then you change directions, and then the last thing to come down is the club head. And so learning those sequences in throwing a ball and learning the sequences in hitting a golf ball are very, very similar. If you watch any of my videos on deckergolf.com, I talk a lot about that. I have a lot of drills in there, and I try to make things athletic if that student has an athletic background. Now, if they don't have an athletic background, then I'll go a different route. So I might use different analogies for people who maybe are engineers or someone that's an accountant who's really, they really want to get down into the weeds and they want to know numbers and things like that. So I always try to figure out a person's personality, what is going to make the most impact for that person. And I'm sure Pete would echo these thoughts, is no two students are the same. So you have a student come in and they could have the exact same problem, but you may go about it totally different depending on how they learn, what their background is, and just who they are as people. And so that to me is what makes teaching fun. If it was like fixing a car battery and it was just the same way to do it every time, I would be bored out of my mind. But to deal with personalities, to deal with learning styles, I think that's what really great teachers have the ability to do. And one other thing that's important, and my mentor taught me this many years ago, the most important thing in teaching is knowing how much to give a student. I can overgive information to a student, and that was not going to help them. So I have to know when to pull back the reins, and it's taken me years. I'm still learning how to do that. I sometimes tell myself, shut your mouth, John. You've given him enough. He can't take any more. You've got 10 more minutes left in the lesson. Let's save that for a future lesson.
It's funny. A lot of people have said that to me too, and I haven't learned that lesson yet. I still keep talking. So, but no, well said. I think it's important because you hit a lot of great points there. Both of you have, but John, in your segment there, you talk about really giving too much information. And it is this was one of the criticisms that a lot of people had sort of pre-pandemic that sort of walked away from the game somewhat, was that they were getting bombarded with so much information that it was just overwhelming them. And it's, the golf swing and the game itself is very, very challenging, can be very challenging, but it can also be very rewarding once you have the right tools and you're able to understand the basics and build from that. But if you're bombarded with all kinds of information, sort of continually or all at once, it can be daunting. And this brings me to a question for you, Pete. And this is something that I'm sure both of you experienced in your teaching careers. And that is, how do we encourage the students to ask questions. A lot of times we're up there, we're giving the lesson, we're doing things, we're filming, we're doing whatever it is that we're doing, and we'll maybe turn to the student and say, well, have any questions? No. And darn well they've got to have some questions, especially if you're going through certain swing changes. There's always should be questions. So how do you, Pete, how do you encourage them? What is it that you say, or do you do something specific? Do you do it along throughout the process, or do you wait till the end in order? Because I think it's important. I think it's important for them to maybe acknowledge some of the things that you've been doing, but also maybe come back and say, well, I don't quite understand that, or can you maybe re-explain that in a different way that I can better grasp it? So how do you encourage them to be more engaging throughout that video lesson?
Well, I learned a long time ago, my dad used to have what he called the question test, and any new kid that came to the house had to sit in the couch with him. My dad would ask him questions, and he'd answer their answer with another question until he found out enough about them, and then he'd shoot them along their way. And so I learned that right off the bat. So that's what I do constantly throughout the lesson. I'm continually asking them questions, and so they have to come back and answer that. And when they answer, I ask them another question. So I keep asking them questions all the way throughout until one, I get the information that I'm looking for, and two, I get a feeling that they're starting to understand what I'm asking them to do. And so, we all know that, sometimes you'll ask them a question, they turn around like deer in the headlights. So, they didn't understand a thing you said. But I think another thing too, that can help out really at the beginning, I think at the start of the lesson, I like to ask them how their day was. How's your day? How you doing? What's going on? How's the family? How are the kids? How's your brother, sister? I heard something was going on. And I think if you can settle them down right away at the beginning and just start having a conversation, then I think it's a lot easier as you're going through the lesson to be able to communicate more with them. But again, like I said, I use my dad's old question test, and I just keep asking them questions and making sure that they're engaged the whole time. And in the middle of it, I may ask them a random question, and totally that's not even about golf. If I see they're drifting, I'll just ask them something different. And they're like, wait a minute. And it just stops them for a minute. And they're like, oh, yeah. And they'll answer that question. I say, hey, well, let's get back to golf. So sometimes you can tell when they're drifting away. So you can sort of plant another question in there and ask them about something that's going on. But, and I would say too, it's not that, going back to your point before, I had a great comment from one of the tour guys that I've coached for a long time. And he said, the one thing I really like about your golf instruction is the longer you work together, the less you say. And there's a lot to that, and I said, well, I pride myself on that. I try to say as little as possible, but I try to make sure everything I say has meaning to it. And so, you can't overwhelm them, but I think also in asking questions, you can also do the same very thing throughout the lesson to keep them engaged.
Yeah, I think there's a point you have to, and I use the term pry, but it's almost like you have to pry them a little bit to get information out of them. And because a lot of times, again, and I like the fact that, you use the analogy of, let's start by having just sort of a regular conversation. We're not going to get into golf for a minute or two, because again, that relaxes them. Because I know a lot of people, especially first time students, they come out there, they think, okay, you're a golf professional. They're just coming up, learning the game. They're very intimidated by that. And, and again, I don't care how good of a pro you are as far as your own abilities, but again, there's just I don't want to say a stigma, but there's just I guess it would be stigma, where people are overwhelmed by the fact that you're somebody that's been, teaching for 30 plus years. And now all of a sudden they're taking a lesson from you, and they're thinking to themselves, well, I'm not going to measure up to this. So right away, they kind of have an apprehension, and they're not as engaging unless you sort of break. It's almost like an icebreaker, I guess, is the best way to put it. Is just, let's break the ice. Let's, get to know each other a little bit better, and then go from there. And then you sort of build in those early stages. So we're going to flip the script a little bit. We managed to get some more time here. So we're going to talk about from the student's perspective, John, and what students can do to prepare. So to prepare for a video golf lesson, I think it's important to organize your goals and maybe gather essential equipment you might need. So if you're bringing something to it, and again, obviously the pro may have their own equipment, but if you're in a case where Pete is doing it on a live format, a live app, they've got to have their equipment. They got to make sure that they're in a position that you're going to be able to communicate. So I think it's important before the lesson that the player defines their goals, and that the coach helps go through, as Pete said, through questioning that. So talk a little bit about that. What should be some of the things that in your conversation with your student, do you want to gather, and what do you want to make sure that they lay out accordingly? That's going to give you a clear idea of what their goals or what their end result that they're looking for.
Well, the first thing is I just ask them, what is the main reason that you're here for the lesson? Is it to improve your short game, or to get longer off the tee, or more consistent with your irons? I think the word consistent is the word I hear every day. Every single student, I want to be more consistent. And my response is, you are consistent. You're consistently doing the same thing over and over again. It's just not producing the shot that you're looking for. So that's something that, I hear a lot of, and that goes usually to ball striking and hitting the ball in the center of the club face. But I want the student to let me know what they're expecting out of the lesson. I also ask them right up front, are you looking for a series of lessons, or is this just a quick fix quote? And I get some people who come in, and the member guest is the next day and they want a 30-minute lesson. There's not much I can do in 30 minutes before the member guest. So I try to know, what tournaments they have coming up. If they're a competitive player, if they're telling me they have a tournament next week, I'm going to dial it back a lot. I'm probably going to try to encourage them to maybe go to the short game or something that I can actually make an impact on. Because if I try to make a swing change to someone who's got a tournament in even 2 weeks or 3 weeks, that is really putting a lot of pressure on them, and it's probably not going to work out well for them. So I think, if they have long range plans, like I've had students come to me and say, I'm a seventh grader and I want to make the high school golf team. That gives me a great idea of how I can lay out a plan for them to really get them on the right path. So I think understanding what the student wants, I always tell them, it's your time. You are buying this time. So I want to make sure and fulfill that. But it's my job as the teacher to say, okay, we need to have some kind of parental guidance here, because if you're expecting, to make a big change in a short amount of time and see good results, that's not realistic. So there's a delicate fine line with that. I typically feel like that for me to really make an impact on someone where they're going to see really sustainable improvement, I need to be with them for at least 3 or 4 lessons. If I only give them for one lesson, I can diagnose the problem. I might be able to give them a drill, but they're not going to change their behavioral patterns until they've had 3 to 4 lessons and they have put in some practice time between those lessons. So I try to gather what they want, and then I lay out the expectations. If you want to reach these goals, this is what you're going to have to do to get there.
Yeah, that's an excellent point as well. I mean, we can give them all the information that they would need, but if they're not going to, put it into practice, if they're not going to get out there and work on those things, then it's really for naught. And Pete, one of the things I want to talk to you about is during the lesson, I think it's a good idea. And again, there's a lot of ways with technology they can use that now, but I think it's a good idea whether you're doing it in a live format like you're doing it, where again you're not in the same geographic area. I think it's a good idea that they're maybe taking notes, or maybe if you're in a position, again, depending on the software, it may have the ability you can send them some details of not just the video recording, but maybe it also a lot of the apps now have where AI will kick in will give you actually some text notes or bullet points, things like that. So, I think it's a good idea to take notes during the lesson. But what are some of the other things too that maybe while you're doing the lesson, in addition to filming and recording everything, are you looking for, from the student, whether they're, again, coming in person, whether they're, in a live lesson like you're doing, or whether they're maybe recording on their own and then sending you the information? What is it you're going to do to sort of wrap things up for them?
Well, first and foremost, I want to make sure that they have an understanding of what practice time they have to put in. I mean, that's important. They can't just come lesson after lesson after lesson and not work on anything. So I want to make sure they understand that they need to practice in between, and then I also want to help them to understand what to practice and how to practice based on what we're working on. And so whether that's say, hey, here are the drills we're going to do. If you have your camera, you can video them now, or I can send you a video later. The big bonus of the live ones is the entire lesson is recorded behind the scenes, and they have access to it later. So that's a cool, and they can go back and pull things out if they need to. But I always make sure that there's drills in there. They understand what those drills are, and I'll say, now, are you going to remember this, or do we need to write it down? And say, we better write it down. Or do we need to? Where's your phone? Let's video this so you have it, or you can hold my phone and I'll send it to you. And so I always make sure that during the lesson, with key points that we're working on, that they understand what they are. And if there's a little bit of confusion, especially then, I'll either have them take a few notes, or we'll take a little video of it so they can remember exactly what we were talking about. And again, that gives them something to look back to later on when they're going. But I think it's really important. I like to try to map out practice sessions for them. And so when I do that, that means that, it'll encourage them to actually go practice. And I'll say, look, you're going to have to do this drill this many times, and you're going to have to hit, this segment of shots this many times before I see you again. And so however long that takes, that's fine. And when you're done doing those, let me know, and we'll set something else up again. But I want to make sure that you take the time to put some work in before we see each other again. Otherwise, we're just, kicking the can down the road, and we're not really getting anywhere. So we want to make sure there's some productive practice time, and making sure they understand what it is, and whatever process they do. Some are audio, some are visual, some are note takers. You have to figure out how they are and how they perform the best, and then give them that type of feedback and remembrance going down the road for them to continue to improve.
Yeah, well said. And John, I think just to sort of summarize this a little bit too, something that we can do after, and I'll make this plural, but after maybe a series of lessons, you're going to have initial video very early on the process where maybe they're doing some funky things that need to be looked at, and you've made some changes. So I think it's important to get that on film as well, so that they can see a comparison. And I think it's important for you to reinforce those new habits, correct? And maybe review and reflect on some of the past issues. So is it a good idea, do you think, for them to maybe have that so they can look at where they were and and then go through that with you initially, and then let them sort of review that on their own as well at a later point?
Yes, I'm always encouraging my students. I said, treat every video that I send you. I want you to make sure and file it away, and it's like you got it in a locker. It's like you can pull that thing out. And I think that's very important, to look at where you were, or to be able during a lesson to compare. I had a student the other day who made some significant changes in less than an hour. And I was able to show them, all right, here's where you were at the beginning of the lesson, and here's where you are now, and put them up side by side. I think that's a picture's worth 1,000 words. And so I can sit there and they can see the ball fly better. They can feel like they're getting better, and they can, they can see that, but they can't see themselves. And when they see themselves, I think that's when you really know that you've made the impact, that the student is now totally going to listen to what you have to say. Because as you know, in golf, there's many times I felt like I'm doing something in my own golf swing, and I video it and I go, wow, I think I'm doing something, but that I'm not. And so it's, what you feel is not real. That's the old saying, and I think every teacher kind of uses. And that's something that I know, working on my own golf game, I have experienced myself.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I mean, I'm a very visual person, much more. I mean, you can explain things to me, and obviously as I've gotten older, I'm able to understand better. But when I was younger, I can remember in school, a lot of times I would have to visualize what the teacher was saying in my mind before I would truly understand it. And again, there's different ways, different learning styles. So I think, the onset of video swing analysis has really set the game apart, from earlier years. And obviously, as Pete, you touched on the technology now where you're able to do it in live format, whether they're abroad or whether they're, in your backyard. Really puts a whole different perspective on things and allows you to capture things that you maybe couldn't do, 20, 30 years ago. And it really helps the student to be able to see. I mean, a lot of times, as a coach, you're trying to explain something to them, and you can tell they're just not understanding it. But then you show them the video and say, okay, here's what I'm talking about. And they say, oh yeah, okay, I see how my in my backswing, I'm not rotating very much, or I'm just flaying my arms in a certain direction, and I'm not transferring my weight or what have you. So, there's a lot of information that they can gather, and it's, I think it's important for us to be able to do that. And, there's a lot of things that obviously we didn't cover. I mean, there's a million things. And what I'm going to do for the audience is I'm going to post a lot of this up on golftipsmag.com this weekend, because I want both from the coach's perspective, but also from the students, I think just an idea of some of the things that both should be looking for. I mean, most coaches, I think, are pretty up to speed with that, but it's always a good idea as a refresher. But I want particularly the audience, especially the students, to be able to see how they can better participate in a video lesson. Because I think the more prepared they come, the coaches are always preparing, but the more prepared a student comes, the better the experience is going to be. So I'm going to have that some quick points and things like that up on golftipsmag.com this weekend. So you want to stick around for that. I'm going to give each of you an opportunity. First off, thank you guys for always bringing your best. Pete, I'm going to start with you if you want to let the folks know how they can reach out and if there's anything specific that you want to plug.
Yeah. Hey, thanks again, John. It's always a pleasure to be on with you. And Ted, thanks for all you do for all of us and having us on the show. But they can reach me at PeteBuchananGolf.com. All my information's out there. Just stay tuned. There's about a half a dozen things that are in the pipeline right now that are going on that are going to be coming down the road. And so different YouTube channels and different websites we're working with, and some influencers and some celebrity players. So we're working on quite a bit of stuff. So keep tuned. There's going to be some exciting things, and I'll try to keep everybody updated as much as I can.
Yeah, well, I hope you keep me updated so I can.
I'll keep you updated for sure.
Yeah, keep me updated when you come on the show for sure.
Yeah,
John. Yeah, I appreciate it, Pete. John, go ahead.
Well, again, Ted, thank you for having us on the show and giving us this platform. And Pete, as always, I enjoyed being on with you tonight as well. For the listeners out there, if you want to go to my website, it's deckergolf.com. It's a free website. You don't have to sign up. I've got hundreds of videos on that website, information on my book as well. I'm also on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. On YouTube, my YouTube channel is Jon Decker Golf Instruction, and I'm posting a lot of shorts videos up there. I've been posting pretty much every day. I've got videos that are coming up on there. So I think that's the popular trend now. So I'm trying to hit that and get those videos out as well. And my book, Golf is My Life, Glorifying God Through the Game, and my second book, Fairways to Heaven, One Shot at a Time. I'm a Christian author, so I tie scripture and golf stories and life stories all into one. Those books are available on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Walmart.com. You can go on any of those websites and order them. And there's also audiobooks with both of those books as well. So, but thanks again, Ted, for having us on the show. It was a great time and great. I really enjoyed tonight's conversation.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'll always look forward to trying to have something a little bit different on here that you can, as much as I know we enjoy talking about golf instruction, I think there's other topics that we can bring in here. And this is one I was thinking about for a little while, actually, guys. That I thought it would be interesting to have this conversation because, again, everybody, Pete, you're doing something a little bit different. John, you're doing something a little bit different, but it's all really trying to yield the same result. So I think it's important that we get the information out there so that the viewers and listeners of the program can say, you know what, hey, I didn't think about that, or yeah, maybe I need to get more engaged with my coach doing that. So these are things that hopefully will initiate some future conversations with their golf professional. But on that note, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, I'll be joined by this evening's travel guest.
Improve your putting with the Alignment Ball Marker, a revolutionary new in-game putting alignment tool and ball marker. Its patented design allows you to read your putt and adjust your alignment at the same time by using your putter, which improves your accuracy and makes the process of putting faster. 100% legal according to the USGA, by their definition, permitted under the rules of golf. Winner of Best New Product at the PGA Show and only $9.99 on Amazon. And it's also completely customizable for any golf event or as a promotional giveaway. Order at alignmentballmark.com.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm excited to have once again my good friend Robert Kaufman, the co-host and travel expert on tonight's travel segment. Let me tell you a little bit about him, and then we'll introduce tonight's special featured travel guest that's going to be joining us in the conversation. Robert, of course, is an award-winning photographer, golf and travel writer, and golf media consultant. He's worked with a number of great publications such as Troon Golf and Travel Magazine, PGA Magazine, and of course, Golf Tips magazine, along with a host of others. And if you want to see more of his great work, you can visit his website, pictureperfect.com. Our special travel guest tonight is Ross Birch. He is the general manager of golf and sports club at the Mauna Lani Resorts in Hawaii, and his expertise will help to execute their strategic goals while overseeing daily operations, enhancing the experiences of guests, residents, and the community at large. And as a former board member, chairman, and most recently as executive director of Island of Hawaii Visitors Bureau, he is at the forefront of Hawaii tourism initiatives, developing programs, and overcoming critical challenges over the past decade or so. So on that note, Robert and Ross, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. Great to see you again, Ross. Been a while.
It has. You're looking good.
Yeah. I
And
look as good as I feel.
Yes. Well, that's open for debate. And
Yeah.
as Robert was showing off air, he was showing that he's sporting the Mauna Lani hat there. So if you want to just tilt your head a little bit, Robert, we'll give them a quick shout out. There you go.
Oh yeah. I'll just keep my head down.
You just keep your head down. Yeah, we don't want to look at you anyway. So, all right. So here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do. Ross, I'm going to hand off to my good friend and co-host Robert, who's got some questions for you. I'm going to just sort of sit here and listen. I may jump in once in a while, but if not, I'll come in at the end and may have some follow-up questions and things like that. But Robert's very capable. And Robert, go ahead. Thank you, as always.
All right. Well, here we go, Ross. You ready?
I am.
All right. Well, I just want to get going here with, the fact you've been on the island of Hawaii, I should say, for roughly 35 years now, according to my calculations. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, pretty much working in the golf scene all that time. And then, but including to that is, the 10-year stint with the Visitors Bureau. So what I want to start off with is, I know it's a long time to digest, but how have you seen tourism in Hawaii during those years, and especially from pre to post pandemic change?
Well, that's a big question.
That is a big question. Yeah. Yeah.
Loaded too.
Yeah.
Very loaded. Yeah. That's why I wanted to narrow it down more to pre and post pandemic, because it's obviously been a big shift in tourism all over.
And I was heavily involved during that time period at the Bureau. We
right.
Pre-pandemic, we were starting to hit record tourism numbers. Going into 17, 18, and then 19, we saw record year after record year. We were surpassing 10 million visitors a year as a state. And Island was we were doing very well as an island as well. But of course, you realize too that the islands each island gets different shares of visitation, and our island was finally getting the visitation we had been wanting and needing for quite a few years, where some of the other islands were getting a little bit more oversaturated. And it became an issue at that point. And then we were looking at how we were marketing the islands and almost trying to look at the management side of tourism as much as we were marketing in 2019. And then the pandemic comes and changes the whole script on us anyway. And we went from basically at 30,000 people on a daily basis on the island to zero. I know it very well because I got called on March 25th and said, we need you at the airport March 26th because all flights are going to stop.
Wow.
And those flights that are coming in, we need to monitor who is arriving on island. And it was the 2-week quarantine, the 14-day quarantine kicked in. We ended up being the agency that flipped from marketing and having everybody come in to now managing everybody who was on island that was visiting. We had to know where you're at. We had to check in on you. We had to do all that stuff for that period of time. And
Right.
the pandemic basically had 2 flights a day that were 5 to 6 people on them for at least those 2 weeks. It just absolutely shut down. And
Yeah.
then once you stop, it's kind of like turning a major ship, or it's basically like once it shuts down, you have to then restart every, you know, piece of it before things start to click, and then you get a little bit going, and then a few more things come in, and it was a kind of a long haul for us to get any type of that recovery to come
Hmm.
back on the backside. But then when it
Right.
came, it was pent up demand. So we've seen these kind of peaks and valleys and spikes over the last few years, where when it was a full green light and we got everybody to start coming back, it was now a year and a half to 2 years of no visitation, all coming at the same time.
Right. So what was it that really created the mass flow after the pandemic? I mean, was it more marketing that you were doing, or people just wanted to get back to the islands?
Actually, the simple version of why we were so compacted was all of the group business that were on the books during the pandemic time period still had their deposits. They still had their cash at the
Uh,
hotel. So they had to come. They were like, okay, we are coming. And then all of a sudden you got this, everybody was, cabin fever, and it's like they're ready to go. So we had
right.
groups on top of FIT, on top of, all the different visitations saying, I want to go now. And I don't
Right.
care what it costs. I just want to go now and be out there. So it was really that compaction that uh,
Yeah.
forced it in, and everybody's like, oh, this is great. We'll just continue what we did before. And I think now we're finally getting to a point where it's getting back to what a normalcy would be as far as visitation cycle is and the numbers
Hmm.
we've had in the past.
Yeah. So, on top of the pandemic, what was it, last year, I believe, or no, the year before, with the fires in Maui, and now the closure of Kapalua. I mean, is that having any extra impact on visitation to your island?
The fire's not necessarily right away. The amount of time it's taking for Lahaina to recover,
Yeah.
and this process is now actually, we're seeing more conversion of previous Maui visitors coming to our island, just because it's, they still see the devastation. They still
Right.
see that people haven't gotten back to their houses yet. They're like, okay, well, I'm going to go visit a different island this time around. So
Yeah.
we're picking up some of that. Kapalua being closed, actually, I think we're going to benefit greatly from something like that. And it sounds terrible, and it's not something we look forward or budget or anything like that. But
Yeah.
having the marquee golf course like that shut down, attracting the type of golfer it does, we kind of fit into that situation to be able to take that customer in lieu of them going to Maui on that side. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a pretty huge hit, no doubt. Uh, so anyway, let's switch gears to golf. So, how would you rate like I said, you've been on the island for, over 3 decades now. And so how would you rate the golf courses on your island in terms of diversity? Because I mean, all the islands have their own, you know, package of diverse golf courses.
right,
I would say the island of Hawaii has the most.
we have, well, you
I
got
mean,
your
because
resort style
you go,
courses.
yeah.
It's really it's based off of our climate, and our
I was
island
going to say,
having
yeah, yeah,
almost every climate there is in the world on one location. And if you don't like the
right,
weather where you're at, just wait 20 minutes or drive 20 miles, and you're going to be in a totally different climate zone. So
yeah, or just go up in the mountain, yeah,
yeah, and you're going to drop temperature almost 10 to 15 degrees easily, and maybe even up to 20 degrees by doing that. And then the scenery changes depending on the amount of moisture that's there.
yeah,
So where we are here on the coast, you've got the real desert area with the lava flows, or you can go up the mountain and get into the lush greenery, or you can go to the east side and play like the municipal golf courses or the volcano golf course, and definitely be in the greenery on that side.
yeah. So obviously everyone knows about the seaside resort courses like Mauna Lani. What's the highest elevated course on the island? People
Highest
would probably
elevate.
be pretty surprised.
Well, it'd be Volcano Golf Course right next to the entrance of the Volcano National Park, which is about 4,500, 4,600 foot elevation.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. And the course is flat, but it's at that high elevation. And then we've got a golf course on the west side of the island at Mauna, which I had worked at for a few years. That golf course actually has a 3,000 foot elevation change between one hole and the ninth hole.
Oh my
So,
God.
yeah, it goes from about 1,200 feet to almost 3,500 feet in elevation between first and ninth hole.
Yeah. So down along the Kahala coast, where Mauna Lani is situated, you've got some other high-end resorts as well. How does Mauna Lani differentiate from those resorts?
We're fitting into like basically the white space right now. We've been kind of very fortunate that Waikoloa Resort on the south side of us, they're down to 27 holes right now. They've been working through some issues with irrigation and some other stuff like that. The quality of play isn't quite what it had been previously. Mauna Kea Resort to the north of us, that Mauna Kea golf course shut down a year and a half ago, and now Hapuna is shut down as well for renovation. So they're upgrading their product, but we've kind of fit that space right now where if you're looking for resort golf and we have the accessibility, you could play Mauna Lani, and we're going to be about the best product there is right now.
Yeah, so you guys are in full steam ahead. You've got
Yep.
everything open. Yeah, yeah. So you got two courses, well, plus the Wiki 9-hole for juniors and families. As far as the two 18-hole courses, how do they differ?
It's amazing. We just had the group out here. We spoke about this in our emails back and forth. We had a few media that were visiting us, and when I told them, I said they're two absolutely different golf courses within the same resort. They gave me the strange look, like, how can you have two oceanfront different courses? But they are totally. When they got done with them, they were like, absolutely correct. You wouldn't even know that one was on the same resort as the other, because we have a two separate lava flows that creates our resort, and they're about almost 2,000 years apart, where one of the golf courses is cut into a old Keawe forest. So you're tree lined everywhere, trees in the middle of the fairway. It's really lush, and it kind of has a little elevation change. And then you go to our south course, which is kind of our marquee oceanfront course. It has nothing but coconut trees and lava surrounding it.
Wow.
So you've got completely different experiences.
Do you have a favorite?
It's. I was mentioning this as well. I will play north seven out of 10 times. So I lean in that direction. It's more of a player's course. There's a little bit more club changes. South is beautiful, amazing, and you've got the scenery. You want to get that oceanfront golf. It's absolutely what everybody's looking for. But it's very generous off the tee, and it's very close to a driver wedge type of, all the par fours are very similar yardages. They play into it very similar. So
right, so more of a resort style course that people would expect out there.
Absolutely,
yeah. So kind of on a side note, with the courses being carved out entirely on top of volcanic rock, what do you think the injury rate is like with golfers wandering off course to retrieve a ball?
I highly do not suggest that you go locate your golf ball.
But I'm not your average golfer that would do that. I've got plenty of balls in my bag, but you know how golfers are. They'll give up dying trying to find a golf ball.
I've known a few, and I've done it myself. I've ruined a very good pair of leather golf shoes to try to track my golf ball down. And yes, if that'll ruin the leather, imagine what it does to your skin if you don't quite keep your balance. You'll find yourself in the ER pretty quickly.
Exactly. You have one on site?
We have a fire station that is located actually within the Mauna Lani property,
Just for such occasions.
just for those
Yeah.
occasions. Yes,
Right.
and we keep a well stocked supply of bandages in the golf shop as well. So
Well, you
we're
should
all
have
trained
them
in
on
first
every.
aid.
Probably
You
if
should have
you're
them on every tee box.
if you're worried about your golf balls, it's probably not a good idea to bring your Pro V1s to Mauna Lani if you're
Well,
if you're not a straight hitter.
we have generous spaces out there, but they do tend to wander occasionally.
Yeah.
And fortunately, it's most of them will actually return. Hopefully, when you hit it out there, it gets that favorable bounce, and it'll come right back into the fairway.
Right. All right.
Go
So
ahead,
let's talk about how the overall the property has changed since Auberge took it over in 2018. Is that correct?
Yeah, end of 2017, 18, the
Okay.
new ownership came in, put a $250 million investment into the hotel.
Wow.
They were shut down for about a year, and it was another interesting time for the hotel. It closes in 2018, gearing up for a end of 2019, 2020 opening,
Yeah.
and everything was on pace. Everything was going. You put 250 million in. They open at the end of 19. They opened in December of 19, and then
Wow.
shut down 2 months later,
Yeah.
and then finally reopened officially in the June-July time period, slowly bringing some people back. But it absolutely just pushed back the whole timeline of
Yeah.
what the expansion and the return was.
Yeah. It was the perfect storm, huh? No doubt. Yeah.
Mm.
So what was done with that investment? I mean, obviously they upgraded all the rooms, the lodging around the property, because you've got some options for accommodations, right?
No, definitely. The rooms have been totally renovated inside, and I mean through the whole process, everything was touched. I don't think
Yeah.
there was anything that wasn't untouched. The restaurants were renovated, even the public areas and the lobby was totally reconstructed, and check-in even moved from one side of the hotel to the opposite side of the hotel. Now you've got this wonderful, beautiful view overlooking the ocean as you're standing at the front desk. They completely opened up that atrium, put a lot of wood rather than previously when you were here was the blue tile, and the style of the 80s when it was first constructed. And now
Yeah.
it's got a lot of soft corners now, and it's got a lot of the wood touches to it to make it really a comfortable and inviting environment.
Yeah. How many rooms do you have there?
We have 333.
Wow.
Wow.
Easy to
And plus
remember.
For what? I'm sorry.
Easy to remember.
Oh, easy. 333.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we
Okay,
do have
see.
5 residences that are 2-bedroom individual units that have their own swimming pools, their own hot tubs. They're basically separated off on the side of the resort, and those could be rented out individually as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, in addition to the courses, you've got pretty good variety of top quality amenities. With the pool and sauna, and you
Yeah.
run the sports club too, correct? You oversee
Yes.
that operation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the hotel has its own spa. It has its own fitness facility. It has everything included in that. And it kind of goes down the line of to be a 5-star resort, you have to have everything
Yeah.
on property. Previously,
Yeah.
it was located off property. So we've got 5 tennis courts. We've got 4 pickleball courts. We've got a 3-lane Olympic swimming pool. We've got a full
Wow.
fitness center, and the spa as well attached to that facility. So
Mhm.
we definitely
And
have the
what?
amenities.
Yeah. And what about off property? What does the resort offer? I imagine they take guests to activities, up in the hills or up the coast.
Absolutely. We work with all the different activity companies that will do the hikes, they'll do the helicopter tours, and we work with a couple of helicopter companies very closely, and we give them permission to land on property
Oh,
for a
wow.
little bit more elevated guest experience, and they'll do customized tours as well, where it's not going to be your regular everybody gets on the same one and it's the same ride like Disneyland. They'll change it up a little bit. And
Yeah. Yeah. So what would a typical golf package look like? I mean, whether it's for a couple coming over or maybe a group of guys that want to get over to the resort, what would they be looking at? Like 3, 4 days, 5 days?
I would say at least 3 days for sure for the golf. 5 days is probably the perfect number. That way,
Hmm.
you're going to get a couple of days separation in there. You get the 2 rounds on the golf courses. You get an activity day, and you get your downtime.
Yeah.
That would be the optimal, and it's pretty much what our average length of stay is right around those 5 days. Of course, we get the longer ones, but
Yeah.
uh, that's usually the best way to get everything you want to get done and not
And
overdo it.
are you offering packages? You know,
We
uh,
do actually.
yeah.
We work with our and being under the same ownership management as the hotel. We really do aggressively market golf packages, and truly, it's very few dollars more than what you would be paying for the room itself. So
Wow.
we want that golfer to stay in the hotel. It's we've talked about this in the past too, that the golf traveler is the best traveler.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm being a little
Sure.
biased as well, is that you
No,
know
it's true. Yeah.
yeah, you spend more money, you spend more time, you eat at the better restaurant. I mean, it's the golf traveler is the one that every resort's kind of looking for as the
Yeah.
ideal person that they want in the hotel.
Right. So you probably recall, I don't know if a lot of people would, but long time ago, what, 25 years maybe, 20 years, Mauna Lani hosted the PGA Tour Skins game.
It hosted it for 10 years
Right,
from
right, right.
90 to 2000. Yeah.
90 to 2000. Okay. So is there any talk or plans to bring another tour event back?
Not at this point.
No.
I think the tour has got its hands full with what it needs to get done on this side. Kapalua is now another hot topic on the tour side to figure out what they're going to do there. With
Yeah.
Mitsubishi, if so, we already have a champions event on island at Four Seasons.
Right.
So that's a small field, limited field event. With that, as long as it's going to keep going at that facility, I don't think we're going to see much more activity from a tour
Yeah.
event or either way on the island.
Yeah. Would it serve any benefit?
Uh, it always does. It depends on the time of the year we can get it in there, but typically it's going to be first quarter. That's
Yeah.
Hawaii is kind of our golf season is January, February, and that's when
Right.
we want all the eyes on it. So it,
Right.
I think a made for television event, maybe like just a foursome that plays 9 holes one day, 9 holes the next day. I think that'd be a wonderful opportunity for us, and
Yeah.
it's low impact.
Just to get the on-air exposure.
And it'd be
Yeah.
very similar to that Skinscape type of format where you're just dealing with 4 players rather than an entire field or a limited field.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So kind of to wrap this up, at least on my end, Ted might have some thoughts. What do you want, or what would you like to see guests walk away from Mauna Lani from? What kind of experience would you like to see them have
It,
take
it,
home?
it's a it's amazing from a golf experience. I've talked about this with the staff, and I've heard them actually mention this. Is we have golfers that come play both of our golf courses, so they'll play the South course. They normally shoot some of the better scores they shot in their lifetime, if not within the recent years, and they're basically giddy. Giddy is the word we use. That they're just a cracked smile on their face. They're just and glowing coming off the golf course, and they're loving it. And that
Yeah.
continues into the rest of the stay, and it also the hotel kind of gives them that same feeling as well. It just they're almost giggly that it's
Right.
that great of an experience, and they've had so much fun in the process of doing it. So the more I can see of that, the better it's going to be.
Yeah. I usually crack that giddy smile as soon as I walk off the plane.
You get started early.
That's good. Well, good. Ted, jump in here.
I was gonna add something, but I don't think I should. I'll leave that one alone, Robert. Um, so Ross, let me just ask you a couple of.
We'll do
I'm
that off air.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna go there. So Ross, let me ask you just a couple of things here just to follow up. You were talking about professional events and things like that. Um, a skins game obviously would be an ideal thing, but have there been ever been any discussions in the last decade or so with the LPGA or any of the women's tours and things like that, or is that not something? I mean, I know that I believe they're already over, playing in Hawaii early in the season and that, but has there ever been any talk about with them, or even something similar? I think Wendy's had wasn't it the 3-tour championship where they actually had the men, the women, and the champions and that. Has there ever been any thought about maybe something like that? Again, keeping it low key, but at the same time with celebrity.
Well, the ladies were actually just here a couple of weeks ago at the Lotte on Oahu, and the LPGA has always talked about adding another event in Hawaii to keep them here for a little while longer. That's always been on the table. The tough part is it's almost kind of a reverse structure when it comes to the venue. It's basically you have to have a sponsor is almost your very first thing. Who's going to put the money up? Then you look at, okay, which tour we're going to do, and then you start looking at the venue. You don't. It really doesn't come to us until they've actually got something in hand and saying, hey, we're ready to go. Can you pull it off? Can we do it? Can we negotiate the contract? And from that standpoint, so we saying that we would do something. Yeah, sure. If it came this direction and they had everything fall into place and it was all good to go, then we'd consider it for sure.
Yeah,
I think it would be a great venue.
Yeah, obviously you're exactly right in that analogy, because you've got to really secure all the financing and that in place, because it's different than than some of your mainland tournaments, because it is a bigger ordeal to getting.
We've become the last step rather than the first step.
Yeah, and that brings me to this question I wanted to ask you, just to help people understand the experience of playing on the island as opposed to other areas of the United States. Like, for instance, obviously Florida, we have it different than would say out in Scottsdale, Arizona, and that. So what if you could give us kind of just an overall experience? I mean, not from a visual, we obviously understand the visual impacts that Hawaii offers, but as far as playability, what can people expect different? I imagine you're getting a lot of the trade winds coming in and at various times throughout the season, which obviously is going to be affecting the game a little bit. And that is it. What's the experience like overall playing there as opposed to maybe some of your other locales in the United States?
It's in our weather here. We're going to fluctuate 15 degrees throughout the entire year.
Sure.
We're going to be in highs of probably the low 80s up to about 95 during the hottest times of the year. So you're going to get very similar weather except for the winds, depending on what type of outside activity we have going on. If we've got a high pressure system, or if we're in hurricane season and we've got some hurricanes that are passing by the island, they actually shut the winds off more than produce them. But being in the open area on the coast here, we do get some of that trade winds that pick up pretty good. You got to learn how to hit a little bit lower shot. Being at sea level as well, they're not getting the ball flight that they would think they could get normally. And from a resort standpoint, our greens and fairways are pretty lush. We play in very good conditions most of the time, so you don't get a whole lot of roll. Everything you get's going to have to be almost all carry. And that's what we got to do to keep it green out here, is to make sure we've got the softness out there. And a lot of other places you're going to find that's a lot more firmer. It plays a lot different. You're going to get a little different shape of your shots, and it's amazing. The littlest wind here actually feels like a gale force wind in other places. It just pushes the ball that much.
I'll handle that gale force wind anytime, just for the scenery alone. Do you have a golf academy there? Do you guys offer instruction and for those resort guests and that are visiting Mauna Lani? Is there facility there that they can take advantage and work with one of your pros?
We do, and it's interesting you asked this. I'm getting a green light moving forward on a project, but we do have full-time instruction. We offer clinics and all different levels of instruction, multi-day programs, things like that. But our newest project is actually going to be a 24 stall covered hitting bay facility. All technology. Wow. We're going to have Top Tracer in it. We'll have food and beverage. It's basically going to be kind of that top golf similar experience right within the driving range. We're also going to have grass stalls available for that. And I can mention it. It's going to come online about mid next year.
Okay.
But
is that going to be a resort guest only course or a facility or
open to the public?
Yep. Open to anybody. Wow.
Very good. Yeah.
So we'll I can see that expanding our hours even and doing some evening time events or continue to keep it open for, the after work hours and things like that. So,
yeah.
If you were
I'll share some of the diagrams with you at some point.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind the diagrams. We want an invite.
You'll be here for the grand opening. Yes.
Yeah, we're here for the grand opening. What I was going to ask you, and if you want to put this in a percentage or what have you, but obviously being on the island like that, very picturesque scenery and that. What would you say as far as your clientele? You mentioned obviously you're traveling golfer. Is that are you seeing more couples coming, because a lot more couples are playing golf as opposed to just the buddy foursomes that are traveling around? Are you starting to see an increase in more couples golf, even family golf where juniors are coming along for the ride type of thing as well? And would you still say the predominant is still your buddy foursomes, and then maybe the couples are coming in second? What would sort of be the breakdown?
We're absolutely a couples destination.
Okay.
Yeah, we have this conversation as well a long time ago where it's a buddies plus one trip where you're going to come with the buddies, and then every one of the buddies are going to have their plus ones.
Yeah.
That may not be playing,
right,
but they're there. And then what we get is we're definitely seeing a lot more couples golf. The participation on that side is just increased dramatically, and the more ladies we get into golf, it's phenomenal. We're seeing them playing, and a lot of our memberships, our family memberships, actually,
right.
The missus of the family is out here more often than the husband is most of the time. So they're getting their rounds in. We love it.
Yeah, and I figured that because, if you look at the trends in golf over the last decade or so, you've seen a big increase of more women, especially younger women now getting into the game. They're being drawn to it for whatever reason. And, as Robert talked about with the changes, post-pandemic, during the pandemic, a lot of people were getting a little stir crazy, didn't know what to do. And golf was one of the few activities that we could all, be engaged with. And there were a lot of folks who maybe had walked away from the game for, they were getting a little long in the tooth, as it were, when it come to age. But when the pandemic hit, suddenly they started coming back into the game. And then you had a lot of new people coming to the game as well. And that was why I asked you about the academy, because this gives an opportunity for, especially the ladies coming in that want to become better. Gives them an opportunity.
It's kind of been the trend with golf in general. And we're kind of just now falling into that same trend where our 2 18-hole championship golf courses, we get the play we get. We've got the individuals that are here, know what it is. They come out and play. But it's now being attractive to the new golfer, to the first timer, to engage new individuals in the game of golf. That's why we're leaning towards the facility we're going to build on the range. That's why we utilize the wiki. We might enhance that as well. Once we finish the first project, we'll work into that. And those projects are fully created to bring people to the game that haven't been there. We want to just keep adding more players to it.
Yeah, I think you guys have got as I say, a home run there. So if people want to learn and get more information, is there a website that we can direct them to?
Yep, it's MaunaLaniGolf.com. Very, very simple. And then also Birch Resorts for the hotel side. It's
Perfect.
definitely interesting working on the hotel side a little closer than I have in the golf business before. So priorities shift a little bit, and we focus on that overall encompassing visitation. So
Well, it gives you a little bit of
Yes.
variety in your work, so that makes it a little bit more interesting as well. So, well, Ross, I want to thank you very much, and
Yeah.
obviously Robert, thank you
Appreciate it.
very much
Yeah.
for being my great co-host on the show. As we wrap up, I want a special thanks to the guys in the Coaches Corner panel, Jon Decker and Pete Buchanan. Thanks, guys, for doing a wonderful job. And again, thank you to Robert Kaufman, my travel expert and co-host here on the travel segment of Golf Talk Live, and our special featured travel guest, Ross Birch, GM of Golf and Sports Club at Mauna Lani Resorts in Hawaii. So thank you, guys, and thank you all for tuning into the broadcast. I will see you next week right here on Golf Talk Live. God bless everybody.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this week's broadcast of Golf Talk Live. We'd like to thank this week's Coaches Corner panel, and a special thank you to tonight's guest. Remember to join Ted every Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. Central on Golf Talk Live. And be sure to follow Ted on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you're interested in being a guest on Golf Talk Live, send Ted an email at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.